You've been there, haven't you? You ask a simple question and suddenly her vibe shifts. Her eyes dart away, her tone sharpens, or she gets defensive out of nowhere. You feel that gut punch telling you something's wrong, but you can't quite pin it down. That's not just doubt. It's your instincts screaming for clarity. The trap is letting her charm, excuses, or deflections bury that truth. Women who hide something are experts at flipping the script, making you question yourself instead. But here's the truth. You don't have to stay in the dark. In this video, I'm giving you 7 razor-sharp questions that cut through the lies, expose raw reactions, and pull back the curtain on what she's really up to. Once you master these, you'll never be left second-guessing again. Before we dive into the first question, here's your wake-up call. Dishonesty doesn't shout. It whispers. It's in the hesitations, the defensiveness, the over-explaining. That's why you can't miss what's coming next. So, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment if you've ever felt something was off but couldn't prove it. Because the first question I'm about to drop will turn those whispers into cold, hard truth. Number 1. Direct confrontation. When it comes to uncovering potential deception in a relationship, direct confrontation through carefully crafted questions is a powerful tool rooted in understanding female psychology. The goal is to ask questions that are straightforward, yet subtle enough to catch inconsistencies in her responses, which can reveal whether she's hiding something. A cheating woman may struggle to maintain a coherent narrative when faced with pointed inquiries, as the pressure of maintaining a lie often leads to verbal or behavioral slip-ups. These questions should be designed to disrupt her comfort zone, making it difficult for her to rely on rehearsed answers or vague deflections. The key is to create a scenario where the truth becomes harder to conceal than the lie itself. The effectiveness of direct confrontation lies in its ability to expose discrepancies in her story. For example, asking about specific details of her whereabouts or activities can force her to account for gaps in her timeline. If she's cheating, her responses may lack clarity or contain contradictions, as fabricating details on the spot is cognitively demanding. A loyal woman, on the other hand, will typically provide consistent, detailed answers without hesitation, as she has nothing to hide. The difference often shows in the delivery. Pauses, stuttering, or overly elaborate explanations can signal deception. These verbal cues are critical because they reveal the mental strain of maintaining a false narrative. Beyond words, direct confrontation also relies on observing nonverbal reactions. A woman who's cheating may display discomfort, such as fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, or shifting her posture, when faced with a question that hits too close to the truth. These physical tells are often involuntary and harder to control than her words. The psychology behind this is simple. Guilt and fear of being caught create stress, which manifests in subtle but noticeable ways. By asking direct questions, you're not just listening for lies but also watching for signs that her body language doesn't align with her story. To maximize the impact, the questions should be asked calmly and confidently, avoiding an accusatory tone that might put her on the defensive immediately. This approach keeps her guard lower, increasing the likelihood of an honest or revealingly dishonest response. The art of direct confrontation is about precision and patience, allowing her reactions to betray her without you needing to push too hard. Number 2. Behavioral observation. When probing for signs of infidelity, behavioral observation is a critical tool that goes beyond the words a woman might say. It focuses on scrutinizing her emotional and physical reactions when confronted with specific questions, as these can often reveal more than her verbal responses. A cheating woman may struggle to conceal her guilt or anxiety, and these emotions tend to manifest in subtle but telling ways. By paying close attention to her demeanor, you can identify red flags like nervousness, defensiveness, or avoidance, which are strong indicators of deception. This approach taps into the psychological reality that lying requires effort, and the strain of maintaining a false narrative often leaks through in her behavior. Emotional reactions are a key area to observe. For instance, when asked a direct question about her activities or relationships, a woman who's cheating might display discomfort through hesitation, forced laughter, or an overly defensive tone. These responses stem from the cognitive load of fabricating or concealing information, which can disrupt her usual emotional composure. A loyal woman, by contrast, is likely to respond with ease and consistency, showing no signs of distress because her answers align with her reality. The difference lies in the effort. A cheater's emotional responses may feel rehearsed or exaggerated, as she tries to overcompensate to deflect suspicion. Physical cues are equally revealing. Nervousness can show up as fidgeting, such as playing with her hair, tapping her fingers, or shifting her weight uncomfortably. Avoidance might manifest as breaking eye contact, turning her body away, or busying herself with something to dodge the conversation. These behaviors are often subconscious, making them harder to fake or suppress. For example, if you ask about her recent whereabouts and she suddenly becomes engrossed in her phone or changes the subject, it's a sign she's trying to steer clear of scrutiny. These physical tells are rooted in the body's natural response to stress, which spikes when someone is caught off guard by a question that threatens to expose their deceit. The power of behavioral observation lies in its ability to complement verbal questioning. While her words might be carefully chosen, her body and emotions are less controllable. By maintaining a calm, non-threatening demeanor when asking questions, you create a space where her reactions are more likely to betray her. This approach requires keen attention to detail and an understanding that the truth often lies in what she doesn't say or do as much as in what she does. Crafting questions that tap into psychological triggers is a strategic way to uncover potential infidelity by leveraging the emotional undercurrents of female psychology. These questions are designed to provoke responses that reveal guilt, discomfort, or inconsistency, as they force a woman to confront her actions or emotions in ways that are difficult to mask. The approach relies on understanding how emotions like guilt, fear, or shame can disrupt a cheater's ability to maintain a composed facade. By targeting these psychological vulnerabilities, you create moments where the truth is more likely to surface, often through subtle cracks in her responses or behavior. The core of this strategy lies in asking questions that stir an emotional response tied to her actions. For instance, inquiring about her feelings toward the relationship or her thoughts on fidelity can trigger guilt if she's cheating, as it forces her to reflect on her betrayal. A loyal woman might respond with openness or reassurance, while a cheater may hesitate, deflect, or offer an overly emphatic denial to cover her tracks. These emotional triggers work because they tap into the internal conflict a cheater faces, trying to balance her secret with the need to appear trustworthy. The psychological tension this creates often leads to responses that feel off, such as vague answers or sudden irritability. Another aspect of psychological triggers is their ability to exploit the cheater's fear of being exposed. Questions that indirectly probe her recent behavior, like asking about her emotional state or changes in her routine, can make her feel scrutinized without accusing her outright. This subtle pressure can cause her to over-explain or contradict herself as she tries to justify her actions. For example, asking why she's been distant lately might prompt a defensive response if she's hiding something, as the question touches on her emotional withdrawal, a common byproduct of infidelity. Her reaction, whether it's nervous laughter or an attempt to shift blame, can reveal more than her words. The effectiveness of psychological triggers depends on delivery and observation. Asking these questions in a calm, curious tone lowers her guard, making it harder for her to prepare a rehearsed response. Meanwhile, watching for emotional cues, like a strange smile, sudden anger, or avoidance, provides insight into her state of mind. This approach doesn't just seek answers. It uses the emotional weight of the questions to expose truths she might otherwise conceal, making it a powerful tool for uncovering deception. Number 3. Psychological triggers. Crafting questions that tap into psychological triggers is a strategic way to uncover potential infidelity by leveraging the emotional undercurrents of female psychology. These questions are designed to provoke responses that reveal guilt, discomfort, or inconsistency, as they force a woman to confront her actions or emotions in ways that are difficult to mask. The approach relies on understanding how emotions like guilt, fear, or shame can disrupt a cheater's ability to maintain a composed facade. By targeting these psychological vulnerabilities, you create moments where the truth is more likely to surface, often through subtle cracks in her responses or behavior. The core of this strategy lies in asking questions that stir an emotional response tied to her actions. For instance, inquiring about her feelings toward the relationship or her thoughts on fidelity can trigger guilt if she's cheating, as it forces her to reflect on her betrayal. A loyal woman might respond with openness or reassurance, while a cheater may hesitate, deflect, or offer an overly emphatic denial to cover her tracks. These emotional triggers work because they tap into the internal conflict a cheater faces, trying to balance her secret with the need to appear trustworthy. The psychological tension this creates often leads to responses that feel off, such as vague answers or sudden irritability. Another aspect of psychological triggers is their ability to exploit the cheater's fear of being exposed. Questions that indirectly probe her recent behavior, like asking about her emotional state or changes in her routine, can make her feel scrutinized without accusing her outright. This subtle pressure can cause her to over-explain or contradict herself as she tries to justify her actions. For example, asking why she's been distant lately might prompt a defensive response if she's hiding something, as the question touches on her emotional withdrawal, a common byproduct of infidelity. Her reaction, whether it's nervous laughter or an attempt to shift blame, can reveal more than her words. The effectiveness of psychological triggers depends on delivery and observation. Asking these questions in a calm, curious tone lowers her guard, making it harder for her to prepare a rehearsed response. Meanwhile, watching for emotional cues, like a strained smile, sudden anger, or avoidance, provides insight into her state of mind. This approach doesn't just seek answers. It uses the emotional weight of the questions to expose truths she might otherwise conceal, making it a powerful tool for uncovering deception. Number 4. Specificity in inquiry. When aiming to uncover potential deception in a relationship, asking precise, situation-based questions is a critical strategy that limits a woman's ability to provide vague or rehearsed responses. Specificity in inquiry works by pinning her down to concrete details, making it harder for her to dodge or obscure the truth. This approach leverages the psychological reality that fabricating a consistent lie on the spot is far more challenging than recounting an honest memory. By focusing on particular moments, locations, or actions, you create a scenario where inconsistencies or hesitations in her answers can reveal whether she's hiding something, such as infidelity. The power of specific questions lies in their ability to disrupt a cheater's carefully constructed narrative. For example, instead of asking a broad question like, "What did you do last night?" you might ask, "Who were you with at 8 p.m. when I called and you didn't pick up?" This level of detail forces her to account for a precise moment, increasing the likelihood of stumbling if she's fabricating a story. A loyal woman, with nothing to conceal, will typically recall specific details with ease and consistency, as her memory aligns with reality. A cheater, however, may pause, offer vague responses, or provide details that don't add up, as the cognitive effort of lying becomes evident under scrutiny. Specificity also reduces the room for deflection. Broad questions allow a deceptive person to pivot to safe, rehearsed answers or change the subject entirely. By contrast, targeted questions, such as asking about a particular friend she's been spending more time with or why her phone was off during a specific event, require her to address the exact issue at hand. If she's cheating, these questions can trigger discomfort, as they corner her into explaining gaps or inconsistencies in her behavior. You might notice her struggling to recall details, contradicting earlier statements, or becoming defensive, all of which are red flags. To maximize effectiveness, these questions should be delivered calmly and naturally, as if they're part of a normal conversation. This prevents her from feeling attacked, which could lead to immediate defensiveness and shut down the opportunity for revealing responses. Observing her reactions is just as important as the answers themselves. Hesitation, nervous gestures, or overly elaborate explanations can betray her. Specificity in inquiry is about creating a focused lens through which the truth or the absence of it becomes harder to hide. Number 5. Trust your instincts. When navigating suspicions of infidelity, trusting your instincts is a vital component that empowers you to discern truth from deception. Your gut feeling often picks up on subtle cues that your conscious mind might overlook, such as inconsistencies in her behavior or a lingering sense that something isn't right. This keynote emphasizes the importance of relying on your intuition when her answers to pointed questions don't align with her actions or seem rehearsed. Female psychology can be complex, but your instincts act as an internal compass, guiding you toward the truth when logic alone isn't enough. By honing this sense, you can better interpret the signals that emerge during conversations designed to uncover infidelity. Instincts are often informed by patterns you subconsciously notice over time. For instance, if you ask a specific question about her whereabouts and her response feels off, perhaps she hesitates, over-explains, or shifts the topic, your gut may signal that her words don't match her reality. A loyal woman's answers typically feel natural and consistent with her behavior, as she has no need to fabricate a story. A cheater, however, may struggle to keep her narrative straight, and your instincts will pick up on the dissonance between her words and her actions. This misalignment might manifest as a nagging feeling that her story doesn't add up, or that her emotional tone doesn't match the situation. Trusting your instincts also means recognizing when her behavior deviates from her usual patterns. If she's suddenly secretive, distant, or overly defensive when questioned, these changes can trigger an intuitive sense that something is amiss. For example, if you ask about a specific night she was unreachable and her explanation feels forced or contradictory, your gut may alert you to probe further. These instincts are rooted in your brain's ability to process subtle cues, like shifts in her tone, body language, or emotional energy, that might not be immediately obvious but collectively point to deception. To leverage this, ask questions in a calm, non-accusatory manner to keep her guard down, allowing your instincts to focus on her genuine reactions. Pay attention to how her responses make you feel. Unease, doubt, or confusion are signals worth noting. While instincts alone aren't proof, they guide you to ask the right questions and observe the right cues, amplifying your ability to spot inconsistencies that reveal infidelity. Number 6. Non-accusatory tone. Using a non-accusatory tone when asking questions to uncover potential infidelity is a strategic approach that maximizes the likelihood of revealing the truth. This method involves framing questions in a way that feels conversational and non-threatening, preventing a woman from becoming immediately defensive. When someone feels attacked, their instinct is to shut down or deflect, which can obscure the truth. By maintaining a calm, curious demeanor, you create an environment where a cheating woman is more likely to let her guard down, increasing the chances of her slipping up with inconsistent or revealing responses. This approach leverages female psychology by exploiting the tension between her desire to appear honest and the guilt or fear she may feel if she's hiding something. A non-accusatory tone disarms her natural defenses, making it harder for her to rely on prepared excuses or aggressive counterattacks. For example, instead of saying, "Why were you out so late last night?" you might ask, "I noticed you got home late yesterday. What was going on?" The latter feels less like an interrogation, encouraging her to provide details without feeling cornered. If she's cheating, the lack of perceived pressure may lead her to over-explain or contradict herself, as she struggles to maintain a false narrative. A loyal woman, by contrast, will typically respond with ease, offering clear and consistent details because she has nothing to conceal. This tone also enhances your ability to observe her reactions. When you ask questions without sounding confrontational, her emotional and physical responses, such as nervousness, hesitation, or forced casualness, are more likely to reflect her true state of mind. A cheater might still betray her guilt through subtle cues, like avoiding eye contact or giving overly elaborate answers, because the absence of an accusatory tone leaves her less prepared to control these involuntary signals. The psychology here is straightforward. A non-threatening question lowers her emotional guard, making it harder for her to mask the stress of lying. To execute this effectively, maintain steady eye contact and a relaxed posture while asking your questions, signaling confidence without aggression. This approach not only keeps the conversation flowing, but also allows you to focus on her words and behavior for signs of deceit. By framing your inquiries as natural curiosity rather than suspicion, you create a dynamic where the truth, or the lack thereof, is more likely to surface through her unguarded responses. Number 7. Pattern recognition. Recognizing patterns in a woman's behavior or responses is a crucial strategy for detecting potential infidelity, as it allows you to identify discrepancies that emerge over time. This approach involves observing recurring inconsistencies in her stories, actions, or emotional demeanor when you ask targeted questions. A cheating woman often struggles to maintain a consistent narrative across multiple conversations, and these patterns of deviation, whether in her explanations, habits, or reactions, can reveal deception. By focusing on how her behavior aligns or conflicts with her answers over time, you can uncover truths that a single question might not expose, tapping into the psychological reality that sustaining a lie long-term is mentally taxing. Pattern recognition starts with noting how her responses to similar questions evolve. For example, if you ask about her whereabouts on different occasions and her stories frequently change, different names, vague timelines, or contradictory details, this inconsistency is a red flag. A loyal woman's answers tend to remain stable because they're grounded in truth, requiring little effort to recall. A cheater, however, may inadvertently reveal gaps when she forgets previous lies or adds details that don't align. These discrepancies often surface because the cognitive effort of tracking a fabricated story leads to mistakes, especially when questions are asked days or weeks apart. Behavioral patterns are equally telling. If she consistently becomes defensive, evasive, or overly detailed when certain topics arise, like her phone use or time spent away from you, this repetition signals something to hide. For instance, if asking about her plans repeatedly prompts irritation or a sudden need to change the subject, it suggests she's avoiding scrutiny. Emotional patterns, such as unexplained mood swings or periods of emotional distance, can also indicate infidelity, as cheating often diverts her emotional energy elsewhere. These shifts, when observed consistently, form a pattern that contrasts with the behavior of someone fully committed. To leverage pattern recognition, ask questions periodically and compare her responses, noting any changes or contradictions. Pay attention to her habits, like sudden secrecy with her phone or frequent unexplained absences, and how they correlate with her explanations. This approach requires patience and attention to detail, as patterns emerge over time rather than in a single moment. By staying observant and connecting the dots between her words and actions, you can detect the subtle but persistent signs that point to deception.